So, the thing is, Disclosure Day is already seen as bad by several people. Pardon me while I try my cereal. Sorry about that. So, it's seen as bad by so many people because they want it to fail, and they have no reason to want it to fail. It seems like people are just picking any random movie, and they're already deciding it should fail. It should go in the trash. It shouldn't be allowed to be in theaters more than 2 weeks or a month. They're trying to decide how long a movie's going to be in theaters. They're trying to decide they're trying to decide its success. Its success. When I say they, I'm talking about reviewers. Reviewers don't really have that right. These people, they don't make movies. They say they do, but they're not movie reviewers. It's okay to talk about how you don't like something and why, and be sure to state why you don't like it and what could be done to fix it. But don't just keep saying directors should stop directing, directors should stop writing, because I realized this past year, more and more reviewers have been saying who shouldn't write and who should. Last year they said Chris Stuckman shouldn't write. Then they said James Cameron shouldn't write. And these people, James Cameron's been around for years. Before these people were even born, they've been directing and making movies. Who are you to say they shouldn't write? None of these reviewers are really experts. Anyone from Adam Does Movies to Zach Pope to even Chris Stuckman or Jeremy Johns. And also Cody Leach, Lately I've been diving into the Caramello Anthony case. Matt Walsh has a few videos on that, and I've been meaning to really critique those because it's yet another race-based case, involving a black man and a white man, or a black boy and a white boy in this case, because they were minors at the time. But more on that later. Right now I want to focus on Disclosure Day before my cereal gets soggy. It's the last bowl. So let's see what these reviews of Disclosure Day are. Let me get myself set up here, making sure that my audio is correct. And we are live in 5, 3, 2, 1. We're already live, so
I'm wearing a Jurassic Park t-shirt today. Remind myself of better, simpler times when Spielberg would come out with the film. People would line up in droves around the sides of the theater building. Day fun to go out to that thing, watch it, and remember it for years to come. It becomes part
Sorry, just let it buffer a bit. I gotta paste this URL into the to the description.
part of the cultural zeitgeist. Actually, the t-shirt's the only thing I'm wearing right now. I'm full Donald Ducking it. There's no...
See, zeitgeist? That's another common word. Zeitgeist. They use these woes for the YouTube algorithm, so that the algorithm can push the video. Common key tones. You hear them several times.
Pants, just a shirt, and a dream. A dream of going to a Steven Spielberg film in 2026 and having nothing but praise over this 2.5-hour PG-13 family film. God, I need a haircut. What am I talking about? Oh yeah, Disclosure Day! Let's crack open the files and see if they're worth checking out. That translates to make sure to subscribe to the show, Adam Does Movies. I post movie content every single day almost. It's quite an achievement what I'm doing over here. Free of charge to you. It doesn't cost you a dime. If you didn't know what I was doing, Emily Blunt does that in the film. She's like... And I'm going to do it one more time. I got another one for you. Ready? That means this movie sucked. Okay, that's harsh. That's way too harsh.
Adam, you really need to just jump into your video and stop trying to be a comedian. Jump into your video.
Let's pump the brakes. Let's pull it back. Let's peel it back a little bit. No, the movie doesn't suck. The movie is a big letdown, though. I went to, one of those early critic press screenings, but it also had regular moviegoers mixed in. So, you're kind of in the middle with your assignment.
Not a good thing. You never mix press with regular audience. You never do that. Not a good idea.
Seat. You could bring a friend if you want. I did bring a buddy with. We've known each other since like the fucking third grade. Been to a million movies together. But then you're with the peasants. You're with the sheep. And it's like, ugh, gross. Oh, regular people. Oh, yuck, gross. But then you focus on the film. And when the credits came up, the clapping started. The audience seemed to really enjoy themselves. So what the fuck do I know? There are plenty of issues with this film. I will tell you about them in a spoiler-free manner. I just want to say, though, when I left the theater, there was a lady outside, Claire, I believe her name is, very lovely woman. She said, Adam, sir, Adam, as people often address me, tears in their eyes, typically. Sir, what did you think about the film so I can report back to whoever she reports to, the studio, I assume, Steven Spielberg himself, probably. I go, it had me in the first half. I really liked the first half. Full of suspense, action, stakes. You didn't know what the hell was going on. Really invested. And then the second hour plus kicked in, and it just dropped the ball completely. I was really disappointed with this film. I'm a massive Steven Spielberg fan. Jurassic Park's one of my favorite movies of all time. Jaws is in my top 50 of all time. Minority Report's great. Hell, I even love and defend Ready Player One. Schlock and all, I'm a big fan of that movie. And then, of course, there's this feel-good films of the summer like Schindler's List and Bridge of Spies. I like a lot of his stuff. And as I kept droning on to her about all this, I could tell she wanted to kill herself, which is fair. I didn't say all this to her, but I did talk, maybe like 30 seconds. And as I was going, I imagined she, on the other side of that paper and pen, was going down the list of names that would be invited to future screeners, finding me, and then just... Yep, thank you for your input. I just jotted it down. Fuck you. And then I left, and I felt bad about everything involved in that whole entanglement. So what is Disclosure Day about? Well, I'm going to keep it vague because the mystery is part of the fun. I will just point out that name sucks. Disclosure Day? What the hell does that even mean to most people? That could be a myriad of things. When you hear the name Jurassic Park, you think dinosaurs because it's got Jurassic in the title. Park tells you that there's some fun, thrilling adventure at some sort of a theme park. I'm in. War of the Worlds. That seems kind of self-explanatory. But Disclosure Day? We releasing the Epstein files finally? What are we doing here? No. Unfortunately, that's not. It's not quite that exciting. What we have here is a world on the brink of World War III. This is in the background, though. You just get little droplets of what's going on. Maybe some people are freaking out at the gas station, filling up the cars at the pump, grabbing a bunch of water off the shelves. That's all background noise to the overall, and it kind of plays a part, I suppose, narratively speaking. But overall, we're focused on two lead characters. One played...
So that's what that was. I thought because of the potential aliens. I didn't know that there was a actual brink of a war. I honestly did not know that. Makes sense. There's a little bit of a civil war going on, huh? My mouse. Mouse. Here we go.
By Emily Blunt, who is awesome in this movie. I mean, she's usually really great, and here is no exception. She's crying, she's throwing out emotions, she's funny, she's doing accents. She's killing it. She plays a character named Margaret Fairchild, who is a weather reporter, and then Josh O'Connor plays the less interesting Daniel. In fact, Daniel kind of is just lame in this movie. He sucks all around. I don't know why I'm spending any time with this guy. He's just a stick in the mud character. I want Emily Blunt 24/7. I also want her in this movie more. These two characters from different walks of life, different sides of the tracks, are going to find themselves in a situation where they're drawn together because of some unknown entity. It's making them do things they wouldn't normally do, like speak different languages, like solve mathematical equations and find the words behind said equations. And guiding them along is a character behind the shadows named Hugo, played by Coleman Domingo. But with the yin, you have to have the yang, and that's going to be in the form of Colin Firth's character, Noah Scanlon. That's the name they gave him, Noah Scanlon. Look out for Noah Scanlon, guys. He works for a shadow organization, the Deep State, and these guys cruise around in their SUVs and their Chargers, all black cars, of course, because it's badass and covert, and they never go less than 90 miles an hour. I shit you not. They go out for milk, boom, 90 miles an hour. Hit the e-brake, Tokyo drift around the side of a building, take out a gas pump. It does not matter what they're doing. They're always going super fast. At points, it feels like you're watching a Transformers movie whenever they show up, because the camera's like low down and it kind of pans up into the air like a Michael Bay film as the cars roll in. I kept waiting for a fire truck later in the film to turn into Optimus Prime. Unfortunately, this ain't that kind of movie. That would have shook things up a little. I liked Colin Firth in this movie. I kept thinking, is that Colin Firth? As I was watching it, the dude from Kingsman and a bunch of shit. And I thought, no, that he doesn't, he looks like him, but he doesn't. Maybe it's the facial hair and whatnot. But it turns out it was Colin. That's a fun, true story. Anyway, a good chunk of this movie is going to be a cat and mouse caper where our two leads are going to be on the run from the shadow organization while Hugo does his best Morpheus trying to tell them how to get out of locations. There's a car outside. Go to it. There's a Jack in the Box down the road. Drive through it. Pick me up a number 2 combo. Sir, I don't understand how that helps my situation. Just give me the fucking number 2! Oh yeah, Josh has a girlfriend in the movie named Eve. And Emily Blunt has a boyfriend in the movie named Jackson. I inflected in a questioning sort of a manner because they have no real rapport at all, no sexual chemistry, nothing. These characters are just kind of there in scenes until inevitably they're not really there at all. Eve's character, for the most part, is just completely useless. I couldn't stand her character, and the way they utilize her later in the movie is head-scratchingly stupid. There is a plot hole in this movie large enough to drive that Optimus Prime fire truck through. I know he's not a fire truck in the show.
Let's check out the new score. Yes, the most recent score. Ooh. 80 to 70s. 80 to 70, 80 to 78. Is that 78? 77. This is what we want to know more, though, audience. Ooh. This is about a mixed bag. I'm worried about a 7. I thought it was pretty good. Honestly, if I get a 7.5, I would. I think that's fair.
Don't fucking correct me on Optimus Prime, okay? And I'm not going to say what it is because that would go into spoiler territory. Just know that for this collective, for this deep state group that's like super awesome at everything, and they're always driving 1,000 miles an hour, and they can get into any building and they can track down anyone in a matter of seconds, they sure missed a real obvious thing at some point in this film. And it made me go, what? And that was about the point where I think the wheels started to come off. Literally, because there's a scene in the trailer, and it is in the movie, where they're in a car and they get smashed to the side of a train, and the wheels start to like pop up.
Eve's name, so it's Eve Hewson who plays Jane Blankenship. He said that Daniel Kellner's girlfriend is Eve. But Eve is the name of the actress who plays Jane Blankenship. I can't speak for some reason. And Wyatt Russell plays Jackson, the love interest for Emily Blunt. The love interest for Emily Blunt's character, Margaret Fairchild. So, Josh O'Connor plays Dr. Daniel Kellner, and I'm looking at the IMDb page right now. Coleman Domingo plays Hugo Wakefield. We got some fields in here. It's like Field and Ship and Child and Scanlon. Noah Scanlon, played by Colin Firth. But yeah, it's Eve Hewson that plays Jane Blankenship.
In the air, and they're riding along this train, and Emily Blunt's on top of the car. Whoa! And boring as cottage cheese, Josh is like, we're gonna have to jump. Then another train comes at him from the other direction. I'm like, oh, the stakes couldn't get higher. And then there's a dude in a fucking SUV shooting at them. Like, what is going on? That is actually the most exciting scene in the film. It is awesome. I am a sucker for a scene where they take an implausible situation and they just keep ratcheting it up to the point of complete absurdity. It is a fun scene for about, 2-3 minutes. I really was enjoying that. But after that scene, which marks, I would say, about 50 minutes into the film, if I have to be really specific for no reason, things are going to start to really slow down and go down avenues I really don't care to go down. It tries to pull at the heartstrings. I have no heart, so I felt nothing. I did get reassurance afterwards from my buddy, though, who also felt nothing during the film. This is Steven Spielberg. I bawled my eyes out when E.T. phoned home. After I was done being scared from E.T. looking like a nightmare, all like white and chalky, running around. He gave us Close Encounters of the Third Kind. My eyes were wide open. It was such a beautiful, powerful movie. To this, it's just such a blah film. And I really do not know what the demographic is. I'm going to call it right now.
Maybe it's because you're not a kid anymore. Maybe that's the problem, is you're not a kid anymore. There's no reason to hate this film. Look, for me, it's mid. I gave it a 7 out of 10. That's beyond decent. It's mid. You can like or dislike a film. You can love and hate a movie. But to talk about a movie like this so badly, like me, I have nothing negative to really say about it. Maybe it's a bit too long. That's one critique I have. Just down there 2.5 hours. 2 hours and 25 minutes to be exact. But it's not really that bad. It's a pretty decent story for a disclosure movie that's disclosing or exposing the truth that the government held secrets from the public, and those secrets happen to involve the existence of aliens, Matt Walsh would eat this up. I don't understand what all the hate is about. I really don't. I've got several videos that I like to watch that we like to watch. We're gonna get through this. Trust me.
I actually called it in other videos, but this movie's going to bomb hard. That's my prediction, and that sucks to say.
You see, it doesn't really suck for him to say, because he wants to say that. He wants the views. He wants all the likes and followers and people who will join the bandwagon that is hating this movie. He wants it to bomb. Because this past year, 2025, I know it's 2026, but 2025, I realized there is a trend on the internet, on YouTube alone, where people have decided that they hate a movie and they want it to bomb before it even can get off its feet into the air. They want Supergirl to bomb. Last year they wanted Superman to bomb, and it didn't. They wanted Star Wars, The Mandalorian, and Grogu to bomb. Let's see what else. Not really Obsession or Backrooms, because there was no hard enough news. Those were fresh and new. Obsession is like the obsession. When I'm not talking about just the title. The Obsession that is original movie this year, because last year it was Sinners and this year it's Obsession. That is the brand new original Obsession for the year. You know, the one original for this year that people are going to obsess over. And then we have Backrooms, which is not entirely original, but it was, made by YouTubers, so it's not really touched by Hollywood in a way. It's different. It's somebody's own piece, and it's not. It's something that you don't really want to smash, because you don't even have enough information on it anyway. But something that's based off like a comic book, like Supergirl, just like Superman, they want it to bomb in the box office. They want it to do bad, and they're trying. They're throwing in their predictions left and right. Oh, it's going to fail. It's going to make so much small amounts of money. It's not going to make that much. And it's causing even the actors to lash out and say some things like, I don't know, but just say some things that, creating more PR issues similar to Rachel Zegler. They really started this with, Rachel Zegler's, the movie she was in, Snow White. They were doing it before. Honestly, they started this since last year's Madam Web. I think that was last year. No, that was 2 years ago. But since Madam Web. And so, anyway, it's just like a common trend, though. They're trying to destroy movies before they have a chance to shine, to really shine. In this past year, I've been on them. Telling them to stop. I've been broadcasting this. I've been, these people need to be taken off the air, if you know what I mean. They need to be taken off YouTube, because they're trying to destroy art before it has a chance to shine. Never mind the so-called woke ideology, the left or the right side. Never mind any of that. They're just trying to make something bad when it's not. They tried it with last year's Tron Aries. They tried to say it was girl boss, it was woke, and it wasn't. They tried to make it worse than it was. They're trying to really. They're called grifters. They just want to hate on films.
But it kind of should, because it's not very good. I would never sit through this thing again. I don't know what the demographic is. There's no kids in the film, really. But it is very childish and feels like it's trying to pull in audiences of all walks of life.
Let's shift gears for a bit. Ooh. This is a new one. I gotta watch that. Anyway. You see what I'm talking about? They're completely forgettable.
That is longer than a Lord of the Rings movie. And to be fair, some of those super long movie reviews on YouTube that are longer than the movie that they're reviewing. Like, why do you need to make a movie review that is longer than a Lord of the Rings movie? And to be fair, some of those super long reviews are really great. They go super in depth, they're super informative. But I'm just saying, for a lot of these videos, if you're gonna make a movie review that is longer than the actual movie, you better have some good stuff, dude. If you're just gonna go through every single scene and nitpick every little detail and basically just summarize the plot, I don't think you need to make a 4-hour review to do that. Looking at the bigger picture of YouTube movie content, like I was saying, most of it is entertaining, good stuff. But I'm just looking at all this negative stuff, the overly cynical stuff, the disingenuous dogpiling. I wonder what effect that actually has on the movie industry. I don't know if you can really measure that, but if you just look at sort of the declining attendance of movie theaters, people being more reluctant to go to theaters. I understand there's a lot of factors behind that, but I know social media definitely has to be a big one. And a lot of the content specifically about movies on social media, it's so negative and so cynical. I just feel like it probably does have some detrimental impact on the movie watching experience for a lot of people. Letterboxd. If you don't know what that is, it's basically the new and improved version of IMDb. If you don't know what IMDb is, it's a website where you can go and rate pretty much every movie that exists. So the catchphrase of Letterboxd is social film discovery, and I think the film discovery part of that is absolutely amazing. Letterboxd is such a great website to go to find movies to watch. There are so many movies I probably never would have heard of if it wasn't. And also, why are there so many movie reviews?
You know what? This is what I'm talking about. I want to share this because I want to include it in my. It's 18 minutes long, so it's a bit too long, but we're going to let Adam continue.
Problem with doing that is you end up making a super stale film that doesn't really have anything too interesting to say. It doesn't push any boundaries or envelopes. In fact, this film feels like such a step backwards for Spielberg, who gave us some of the most lifelike animatronics I've ever seen with Jurassic Park. That movie still holds up incredibly well. I think it looks better than most of the modern Jurassic World films in terms of lifelike realism. There are so many CG things in this film, and you are taken out every time. They don't look even a little bit realistic. My favorite is a fox that shows up on the road at one point, and the characters look at it, and it just runs away. And all I was thinking is, you couldn't get a fucking fox on set? You couldn't get an animal trainer to teach it to just run down the road, sit there for a second, and then turn around and leave? We couldn't go out on site and film an actual fox and just CG him into... I mean, this is 2026. We have the technology. It's not like he stopped, sat there for a second, tipped the hat, and turned into, Fantastic Mr. Fox. Started George Clooney talking throughout this thing. Like, yes, you're looking for the device. I can help you out. Follow me, travelers. This way. My friend Derek actually pointed out the whole dinosaur thing. He turned to me and said, how is it that Steven Spielberg made dinosaurs look more realistic than a fox and a deer? I mentioned the action scene with the car. There are a couple
and also,
chases
why are there
here
so
and there.
many...
There's nothing really exciting or explosive or bombastic going on. This is just kind of one of those movies where it's like, go here, talk to this person, go there, talk to that person, find this, go there. They're just jumping around, hopping around a lot. There's a lot of like little monologue exposition scenes where characters are explaining things. And by the end of it, you're just kind of, okay, well. It leads to this grand crescendo that isn't grand, and it really, again, it flops so hard on making me feel...
You don't understand what the problem is. I mean, what the problem in the movie is. And I say not a problem with the movie, but the problem in the movie is that they have to be discreet. They cannot. They're trying to disclose all this information. That's the point of it. But while they're doing that, they can't just. They have to pick the right time to do it in the right place, because there's a point in the movie when Daniel he wants to just upload all the data to like social media and let people see it. That's why he stole it. But the guy he's with, I believe his name was the guy who's like his boss, tells him where to go. Hugo. He says, don't do that. If you do that, that will destroy everything we've worked for. That will cause a bunch of chaos. But because people are not ready. See, there's something about social media. There's something about releasing information on social media that is different from if you were to use the news. Because they know if you just drop everything on social media, people will make their own influences. And they'll make up stuff in their mind and they'll just go crazy. Because social media is where people just go... They go crazy and they don't know how to dissect what they've learned. They will tell their friends, they will share the post, make all kind of live streams, seek more information, and they won't really have control over what they're doing. But if you let the news media tell, the news, they have a legal and a moral obligation to deliver information in a digestible yet controlled manner, in a way that doesn't excite people. It doesn't cause people to panic. That's the thing, because if you just put stuff on the internet, that's going to create a lot of panic. And both Hugo and Scanlon, I think his name's Scanlon, played by actor Colin Firth, they both admit that the human race is not ready for this. Exposing such information, disclosing such information, will create panic, chaos, and so that's why they have to go to the right place. And ultimately, it's a news reporting place. That's why the news place is shown in the beginning, to show us what's her name, played by Emily Blunt. It's like I don't remember anybody's name after the movie. Margaret Fairchild, we see her she's a weather lady. We see her at the beginning, right? We see where she works. They show that at the beginning so they can show it at the end. That's why when you hear Colin Firth's character, his character play Scanlan, when he says, "I know where she's going. There's only one place. Well, there's only one place she could be going. There's only one place left for her to go." Whatever he says. He says that because he knows what she's trying to do, what she's going to do, and ultimately it becomes that because it's a better way to show it. If you just show the alien and just start or just post all these things online, if you just post all this evidence on the internet and for the world to see, first of all, where would you even upload it? To YouTube? Because people will think it's fake if you do. Also they'll think it's fake. So if you give it to a news company, you use the news, the local news to deliver it, it's got to be more trusted because they will verify it. It won't be seen as fake. Of course, people still don't believe the news, but it'd be more trusted than if you just put it on the internet. It's a better official way. But until that point, they have to be very discreet about how they travel and how they get from point A to point B to point C all the way to Z. That's why they have to destroy the Bono phones. Those Bono phones are made to be used one time before they break them in half and throw them away. And they're trying to keep these guys off of them. That's why. See, Adam doesn't want to tell you why. He just wants to rant and rave.
Feel the emotions I think it wants to make me feel. Spielberg once again teams up with his boy John Williams to compose this one. It's a solid soundtrack. The score is pretty nice throughout, but again, just like everything else in this film, it's competent enough and there, but nothing is hitting any sort of highs or peaks. It's not going to stick with you. It's that flutter, and I know not every song is going to be, but the movies that you remember usually have a score that helps bring you back. Even Die Hard. The other thing that just blows balls is you kind of have to see this in theaters if you want to see this at all and drop the coin to go. A film like this is so much better on a big screen. I saw it in IMAX. It's got the great surround sound, the beautiful high-res picture. Even if you have a gorgeous 80-inch TV at home with surround, you're still not going to get the same wow factor that you will at a theater full of like a fun, lively audience. You have that communal relationship with the people you're there with. You're seeing a Spielberg film on the big screen as intended. At home, you are going to lose some of that. And when a movie's just kind of mediocre across the board to downright just kind of bad at times, it even gets worse when you have the option to shut it off or walk away after about an hour and 20 minutes, which I think a good portion of people will do when this hits streaming, and they go, yeah, okay, well, I think I've seen enough of this. I could go on into more details, but maybe I'll do a spoiler recap of the film down the line. Let me know, though, your thoughts if you saw this early or if you were really excited for this one and now you just are a little bummed out thanks to me. I apologize for that, but I'm just trying to warn you to temper your expectations. Make sure, once again, to sub to the show. Adam Does Movies on YouTube. I'm on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Wherever you watch or listen, you can probably find me. And hopefully, you do just that, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go get a haircut and then put some pants on. In that order. Oh, naughty. Since you're still here, I got to give a special shout out to my Patreon supporters at patreon.com.
Alright, sorry, I meant to,
Disclosure date.
Alright, we're gonna go into that a bit. I kind of want to check this out.
You know what's really nice? When you watch a movie, you have a good time, and then that's it. It's over. You move on with your life, you go do something else. What if instead of doing that, you opened up the Letterboxd app, you read a bunch of stupid reviews, and you spend 15 minutes deciding whether or not the movie is actually a 4-star or a 4.5 star. Then you go on YouTube, you watch 3 different video essays, you spend 2 hours listening to some posh British dude tell you that the movie actually sucks. So then you go through the comments section and you see a bunch of people arguing about the movie, so you decide to throw in your 2 cents. Now all of a sudden you got some dude with Cheeto stained fingers and a fedora telling you that you're an idiot it because you just disagreed with them about the movie. So then you go on Twitter and now you find out apparently the director tweeted something controversial 4 years ago. So now you got some college freshman telling you that you're a bad person because you gave royalty money to a problematic artist. Did doing all that extra stuff enhance your experience with the movie? Did it make you more informed, or did it kind of mess with your mind a little bit and taint your memories with the movie, and you would have probably been better off if you just watched the movie and didn't go on the internet after? I love movies, dude. They're so fun to watch. They're so entertaining. But you know what kind of sucks? The way that online movie fans always seem to try to suck all the joy out of the movie watching experience. It seems like there's a lot of people who treat movie watching like it's a competition. If you haven't seen enough movies, well, then you don't know what you're talking about. Your opinion is irrelevant. You're just an idiot.
Who the fuck am I to go to it? Sit, man, don't shut the fuck up in this music. You can't take that shit. Charging them in jail. I mean, those motherfuckers lost me. No. They chose the Super Bowl. You can't watch nothing else. It's already decided. Super Bowl. So you beautiful shit. Fuck you. You ain't your nigga. Fuck. They will. So I got a little excited. Oh, my autism kicked me up. Time to finish my food.
Get out of here. But then if you've seen too many movies, well then you're just a loser. You need to go outside and touch grass. Is there some golden sweet spot in the middle that I don't know about? And then sometimes you can't even express your own opinion about a movie without someone jumping down your throat and
I mean, some people do need to touch grass, though. Some people need to learn to mow it.
getting mad at you just because you have a different taste in movies than they do. I don't know why some people have this ego about the movies they watch and they get super tribalistic about their favorite movies. What's the deal with that? And there always seems to be these new controversies popping up. For example, if an actor or director says something mildly controversial in an interview, all of a sudden it's like this huge outrage and people are all talking about it. But then if you just logged off the internet and just didn't pay attention to this stuff, you would have no clue about any of
Admittedly, that's why you're not supposed to say shit anyway. Look, when you become an actor and you're gonna start acting for like actual movies, they have to train you. PR, public relations, free press relations, something like that. Public relations. They train you. They have to train you so that you'll know how to act once the movie you're in is released. So you won't pull a Rachel Zegler and say it's Hollywood, baby. You don't want to do shit like that because it's too much of a risk of exciting a lot of people, if you get what I mean. Exciting, like causing them to go into a rage. You know, you don't want to say anything bad about the film, but you don't even say anything overly good either. You kind of just want to keep it quiet and promote it professionally without, like, you know, being like Brie Larson when she was in Captain Marvel, you know, Miss Marvel with Captain Marvel, and also Snow White. Played by Rachel Zegler. You know, you don't want to be all self-centered and egotistical. You want to be professional about it. You know, you did all that other stuff. Even if you play an egotistical, narcissistic, self-centered character in the film, you don't want to be that in reality. You actually want to be professional. And they train actors to do that in every film that they're in. You know. Even if it's like in like a Bollywood film or in another country, you have to have good PR skills.
This, and you would just carry on enjoying the movies you like, whatever music you like. You wouldn't be paying attention to, oh, well, the singer of Radiohead said something 4 months ago on Twitter, and like I didn't like that. I don't listen to Radiohead anymore. Yeah, if you would have just logged off, you would still be happy. You'd be listening to Radiohead right now. And that's the thing, all of this online movie fan behavior, you'll very rarely ever meet people in real life who act like this. I mean, yeah, maybe once in a while. Like one time I was at a party and some dude straight up called me an idiot to my face because I said I didn't like Tarkovsky's Stalker. But like, yeah, most of the time you're never gonna run into people like that. It's only on the internet. And I'm not saying you shouldn't participate in the whole online movie fan world because there are a lot of benefits to it. But sometimes I wonder wonder if participating in this whole online movie world actually enhances the experience of watching movies. Because I remember when I was a kid, I never really participated in all this online movie stuff. I would pretty much just watch the movie and be like, yeah, dude, that was awesome. And then I would just move on. And I'm pretty sure I enjoyed movies just as much back then as I do now. And don't get me wrong, I've definitely gotten a lot of great movie recommendations out of it. Probably expanded my knowledge on movies quite a bit. But does it actually make watching movies more fun? I love video essays about movies. I love movie reviews. I love all that stuff. It's really enjoyable listening to someone who truly loves movies just talk about the thing that they're interested in. You can get a lot of great insights from them. It's really nice to hear a different perspective. And most of all, it's just entertaining. I think that's the main value of it. It's just another form of entertainment in its own right, and I really enjoy it. And I would say most of the movie-related content on YouTube, it's good stuff, but there is a significant percentage of it that is just depressing. Gladiator 2 turned its back on masculinity. New trailer reaction. Disney fumbles with...
That's one of the things that got me. The hate on Gladiator 2. Where did that come from? Destroys masculinity. How does it destroy masculinity? Just because it features Pedro Pascal in a critical role?
Snow White again. Snow White is a historic flop, and that's a good thing. Snow White is a crime against cinema.
It's no longer 1937.
Some of these some of those videos he referenced were made by Neurotic.
She's not going to be safe with the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
And I think it's fine to criticize these movies. I'm not trying to defend Snow White. I haven't even seen it. I truly have zero interest in that movie, but I'm just using
Same here.
that as an example because I remember there was this huge outrage over the Snow White movie. I just feel like a lot of that outrage was totally performative and super disingenuous. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of
it's just acting. It's like these people are trying to get seen by Hollywood. They want to be actors, and they're auditioning, or they're making up their own script, and they're being themselves. They're being themselves. They're expressing themselves. And to me, I'm not really interested in watching Snow White, even if I hadn't watched the reviews on it. I would have never even seen it because I just don't want to. I don't really watch Disney movies a lot. Maybe I would have seen it, maybe not. But I'm not gonna smash on the movie because everybody else is doing it. There's already enough people doing it. Like, why do I need to add to it? You know, it's just annoying. It's annoying to hear all these people rant and rave about something that doesn't really affect them if they watch it or don't watch it. No, they just want the views. The bandwagon has created the views. They want views and subscribers. More subscribers. I'm trying to get this thing to point in my face more.
people reviewing the movie, we're just giving an honest criticism of the movie. When they say they thought the movie sucked, they're just giving a valid take on it. I'm just talking about all of the outrage over this movie. You're telling me that there's this, we're just giving an honest criticism of the movie, super disingenuous. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of people reviewing the movie, we're just giving an honest criticism of the movie. When they say they thought the movie sucked, they're just giving a valid take on it. I'm just talking about all of the outrage over this movie. You're telling me that there's these legions of 40-year-old men who are, like, they care that much about Snow White? I'm sorry, dude, I just don't buy it. There's no way you actually care that much about Snow White. It's just this performative outrage because, yeah, that's what the algorithm likes. If you post something really negative and provocative or controversial or something like that, it gets clicks. So there's all this performative outrage that's just trying to appease to the algorithm.
It's like Snarky J cosplay. On her channel, she said that when she used to review films, she used to be more quiet and reserved, and she was much more polite when she gave, not review films, but when she just made her videos. She would be very quiet and nice. But then when she started to lash out and be more angry and aggressive is when her videos really started getting views. And so she continued with that. And that, yeah, the algorithm likes it when you yell and rant and rave and rage. Rage bait. For some reason, it does.
Okay, yeah, maybe the movie actually does suck. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I have no opinion on it. But I feel like there has to be a lot of people who are just hopping on a hate bandwagon in a case like that. It's like, how many people in the comment section have actually even seen Snow White, and they're just hating on it because they watched a bunch of YouTube videos talking about how terrible it is and how it's this outrageous, horrible movie that just destroying cinema, destroying a classic. Like, let's be honest, unless you're like 10 years old, do you really care that much about Snow White? And don't get me wrong.
That's the thing that I question. How many of these reviewers actually care about movies, the cinema industry, care about Hollywood? Not that anybody would care about Hollywood. How many of these people that commented or even talked about it have even seen the movie? And none of them are really movie reviewers. They're not. They're just people that have joined the bandwagon.
Wrong. I understand the frustration people have with all these live action remakes and the general state of blockbusters in Hollywood movie, how there's so many remakes and just reusing the same IPs. I understand that. There is definitely a lack of originality when it comes to a lot of these big blockbuster movies, but I'm specifically talking about the performative outrage and people just dogpiling on these movies, even though you really probably don't care about it. At least most of the people talking about it probably do not care, and it's just kind of disingenuous and annoying. And then there's stuff like Cinema Sins, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically just nitpicking for the sake of nitpicking. Do you really need to know everything wrong with Finding Nemo? Is it really that interesting of film criticism to point?
Now, I'm not gonna lie, finding Cinema Sins is kind of funny, and it's even funnier to watch Boldman's takes everything wrong with Cinema Sins, everything wrong with, watch Boldman. That's funny.
Point out that this cartoon has an
The Boldman.
inaccurate depiction of clownfish larvae. And yes, to be fair, I know CinemaSins claims that it's satire and entertainment. Okay, I get that. But at the same time, I feel like that sort of nitpicky style where you just nitpick every little detail of a movie, but you don't look at the bigger picture. I see that all over online movie discourse, whether it's YouTube videos or people just typing.
And the reason why I'm playing this video is because this very subject pertains to this particular week's movie, Disclosure Day. People choosing to hate it because of a bandwagon.
Comments about movies. At a certain point, does it stop becoming satire and it's just unironically being extremely cynical just for the sake of it? And then you run into another issue with YouTube movie content. I guess this kind of applies to film criticism in general. The problem is that you have people who are watching these movies out of a sense of obligation rather than them actually wanting to watch the movie. Most people will only watch a movie if they're genuinely interested in that movie, and they'll watch it whenever they feel like watching it. I feel like that's the mindset that you're kind of supposed to have when you walk into a movie theater, that you actually want to be there rather than you're obligated to watch this movie. And you just have to wonder how that impacts someone's experience of watching the movie. If they're only watching it because they know they're going to just make a video about it or whatever, yeah, they're probably not going to enjoy it as much as someone who just genuinely was excited about this movie. That's one of the main...
It's like, to me, I don't get my hopes up and I don't walk in excited. I pretty much just walk in with an open mind. I don't plan on even making a video about it. I actually literally want to watch something. If you're just showing up just because you like you said, you feel obligated to go in and make a movie review, you're acting like it's homework. Like, okay, here's one thing. I remember in college, one of my assignments was to watch a film and review it. It was for my English class. One of my assignments was to watch a film and review it. It was the first time I ever did a movie review. It was for the film Disturbia, 2007's Disturbia, starring Shia LaBeouf. I didn't know how to do it, so I had to seek extra help in a certain department of English or whatever, and I asked this kind of woman, how do I go about writing a movie review? Here are the things you need to look at, the elements of the film that you need to look at, the cinematography, the lighting, the tone of the film, the actors, what are they doing, what are they wearing, costume, what are some of the themes in the movie pertaining to the setting, the time, or whatever. Tell me some facts. And I did write a review. I got a good grade on it. I don't remember what it was, but it was good. That was homework. And I'd already seen the movie. I had to rewatch it again, which did help with the review, because it's best to review, and I think I was told this, review a film that you've already seen, so that you don't have to, because the first time you watch it, it's more of a emotional reaction and stuff. But the second time, third time, it's more of like analytical thinking, breaking it down, nitpicking. But if you're nitpicking for the sake of like tearing it apart and trying to make it seem worse than it is, and I'm looking at movies like Tron Ares that came out last year, that was in no way a bad film. Once again, it was at least mid. I'm not a big Tron fan. The music by Nine Inch Nails is quite good. I love the album. But I'm not a big Tron fan. What are we doing making this movie seem worse than it is? People used to not do this.
Reasons why I don't really do movie reviews on my channel. Most of the new movies that come out, I'm just not really that interested to go see it. And even the ones that I am, I don't necessarily want to watch it on opening night just so I can get a video out while the movie's still trending. No, I just want to watch it when I feel like watching it. And I guess this is a problem with film criticism in general. And I don't want to watch it when I feel like, just so I can get a video out while the movie's still trending. I'm not really that interested to go see it. And even the ones that I am, I don't necessarily want to watch it on opening night just so I can get a video out while the movie's still trending. No, I just want to watch it when I feel like watching it. And I guess this is a problem with film criticism in general, and I don't have an issue with film criticism at all. I think film critics are essential to the movie industry, but I'm just saying you do kind of have to take it with a bit of a grain of salt. Oh yeah, and also, why are there so many movie reviews on YouTube that are longer than the movie that they're reviewing? Like, why do you need to make a movie review that is longer than a Lord of the Rings movie? And to be fair, some of those super long reviews are really great. They go super in depth, they're super informative, but I'm just saying, for a lot of these videos, if you're gonna make a movie review that is longer than the actual movie, you better have some good stuff, dude. If you're just gonna go through every single scene and nitpick every little detail and basically just summarize the plot, I don't think you need to make a 4-hour review to do that. Looking at the bigger picture of YouTube movie content, like I was saying, most of it is entertaining, good stuff. But I'm just looking at all this negative stuff, the overly cynical stuff, the disingenuous dogpiling. I wonder what effect that actually has on the movie industry. I don't know if you can really measure that, but if you just look at sort of the declining attendance of movie theaters, people being more reluctant to go to theaters. I understand there's a lot of factors behind that, but I know social media definitely has to be a big one. And a lot of the content specifically about movies on social media, it's so negative and so cynical. I just feel like it probably does have some detrimental impact on the movie watching experience for a lot of people. Letterboxd. If you don't know what that is, it's basically the new and improved version of IMDb. If you don't know what IMDb is, it's a website where you can go and rate pretty much every movie that exists. So the catchphrase of Letterboxd is social film discovery, and I think the film discovery part of that is absolutely amazing. Letterboxd is such a great website to go to find movies to watch. There are so many movies I probably never would have heard of if it wasn't for Letterboxd, so I love it for that. But when it comes to the social aspect of the social film discovery, that's where I think it starts to run into a little bit of issues. So first of all, the whole concept of rating movies on a number scale, it's a little bit arbitrary. I don't have a problem with it. Obviously, if you look at my channel, I've done all of these different tier list videos. That's kind of similar. It's not like I have a problem with rating movies on a number scale. My only issue with it though is once you start trying to get super granular about rating a movie on like some arbitrary scale, like is this a 3.5 or a 3.75, I think it starts to become a little bit of a distraction and it doesn't actually enhance the movie watching experience, at least for me. I'm sure most of you don't have this problem and I'm jealous of you, but I used to...
You know, it's funny. A lot of these reviewers, they want to make a film. Now that Chris Stuckman's made one, and now that the director of Iron Lung or Malcolm Plow's made one, and now that we have had, you know, films like Obsession and Backwoods, you know, directed by King Parsons. I forgot the director of Obsessions. But now that we've had these YouTubers come out with movies, a lot of these reviewers want to make movies. You gotta be careful what you say during your reviews, because the same shit you did for their movies, for all these movies, Tron Ares, Disclosure Day, it's coming out this weekend, other people are going to give you that much hate. They're going to say, I remember when Adam Does Movies was making fun of Disclosure Day. Now that he's come out with his film is even worse. He should never direct. He shouldn't make another film in his life because, man, was this movie trash. I couldn't understand the movie. You see what I'm saying? Karma's a bitch. It really is. And I'm looking at people like Adam Does Movies, Neurotic, the Critical Drinker who said he wants to make movies. How the hell are you going to be doing that much talking trash about somebody's film and expect someone not to do the same to you? Like, that's probably why they're scared to make actual films. It's because they feel like if they feel the retaliation that they're gonna, what they dish out into the universe is gonna come back to them. It's gonna come back on them, and that's fail. That's why Chris Stuckman didn't want to say anything negative about movies, because he didn't want all the negativity to come back to him. And professionally, he was looking for people to back his movie, because if somebody's going to back your movie in any way, you want to give that respect by not saying anything negative about a movie that could be their property. If Universal Studios is going to back your movie, you don't want to say anything negative about any Universal Studios property, not just movies, but property, that is shows, commercials, whatever. Just because the people in Hollywood, in the film industry in general, they're very sensitive. I've walked around on enough movie sets and enough TV sets on enough shows via central casting to know how sensitive these people are. I work in a theater now, at the Palace of Fine Arts Theater. These people, not talking about the staff members, more the client, they are hella sensitive. Hell, the people at the fucking Cirque du Soleil Circus that I worked at 2 years ago, they're sensitive. One dude got mad at me because I sat on the stage. I thought I was supposed to, he said to guard the stage, and I sat on it for some reason to kind of guard the stage, to keep other people from sitting on it or whatever, keep other people from getting on the stage. But he said, you sat on the stage. I've never seen anybody in my life do that. I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I misunderstood. After I apologized, he still didn't. He kept me from having that job again. And they came up with all kind of reasons like, oh, you wasn't on at your mark, you wasn't at on your position in time. I was like, I couldn't find out what I was supposed to be. It was too dark. I barely have enough time to fucking find the break room. It took me 7 minutes to walk to the break room. Now it's going to take me 7 minutes to walk back. Because it's dark. And I didn't really have that many work days. What I'm saying is people are sensitive. People in California in general, they were sensitive.
Rate movies all the time. On my old Letterboxd profile, rate every movie I watched, and I would run into this problem where I would be watching a movie, and in the middle of the movie, I would sometimes just think, oh, is this a 3.5 or a 4, or is it a 4.5? Oh, I didn't like that scene, so I gotta drop it. You know what I'm saying? I feel like once you care too much about rating movies, it starts to just become a distraction, and it kind of defeats the purpose of it in the first place. Sometimes the best experience of watching a movie is when you don't really think about what score you're going to give the movie out of 10. You're not thinking about, how am I going to review this movie? No, you just watch the movie and experience it and enjoy it. And again, I'm not saying I have a problem with people rating movies. I do it all the time. I'm just saying you got to be a little bit careful about it, because if you get super into Letterboxd or IMDb or sites like this, I see a lot of people, they get super into it, and then I feel like at that point it starts becoming watching movies just so you can log it on Letterboxd and thinking about what you're going to rate it instead of just experiencing the movie, you know? And then there's the other thing about Letterboxd that a lot of people really don't like, which is if you go to the popular reviews under pretty much any movie, you're going to realize very quickly that a lot of these reviews are pretty stupid. Camera work more unstable than my future. Somebody do a welfare check on Paddington Bear. This happened to my buddy Eric. 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 And I don't really have any problem with these types of reviews. I mean, yeah, they're kind of dumb and it's super annoying when they just keep on repeating the ones like, yeah, this happened to my buddy Eric. Like, okay, we get it. But yeah, whatever. Occasionally they can be kind of funny. A lot of times it's not really funny, but you know, you tried. It's fine. You're having fun. But the only real issue I have with this is I just have to wonder how many people are watching a movie, and then while they're watching the movie, they're just spending the whole time thinking about what funny one-liner, what zinger are they going to put on their Letterboxd review. I'm not saying all of these Letterboxd users do it, but I'm sure there are some of these people who go to a theater, the entire movie, they're just thinking about, okay, what am I going to rate it? And then what is my one-liner going to be? And then as soon as the movie's over, they have to like type their one-liner review as early as possible, because the earlier you get, the more likely you are to have the most popular review. And I don't know, I just feel like that's probably not an ideal way of watching a movie. You can do what you want. If that's what you like to do, go for it. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like most filmmakers are not making their movies with the intention of having people think of zingers while they're watching.
I feel like every time somebody says, you can do what you want, I'm just saying, you shouldn't say that. Just tell him not to do it. Because he's white. He's out loud, but he's white. Sometimes I take notes when I watch movies, and just the texting alone, as I'm not texting, I'm taking notes on my phone. Just working on the keyboard alone is distracting. I might miss a key scene or something. I might miss a scene or two. So I need to stop doing that. It's just so much information that I could use in my review. I might miss something. Typically, I like to wait until the third or fourth time so I can actually make notes, because I won't really miss a scene, if you get what I mean. But yeah, it's like, and I don't watch reviews just to hate on them. I watch reviews just to see what people are saying. Some people, but I like the ones that are like, some don't like it and some do. I don't like this movie. Here's why. I like this movie. Here's why. I don't like this movie because this camera work. Here's what could have been done differently. Like Memento, he tells you what's wrong in the film. Then he tells you what you can do to correct it. Not what you necessarily have to do, but what you can do to correct it. Or just to give me a solution, at least one, that I can kind of, gauge, if you will, to find some solution. And I can use improv to work for them. But these people, they don't want to do that. They want to like, I don't like the Michael biopic, Michael. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, you didn't like it. You don't have to go into a whole fucking analysis, a whole 3-hour rant on why you didn't like this movie. That's longer than the film.
Watching the movie. No, they want you to be immersed into the movie. That's why they made the movie. But honestly, I can't even really complain about Letterboxd reviews, because if you go look at the user reviews on IMDb or Metacritic, they start getting super unhinged. 1 out of 10, people are weak-minded for liking this movie. 0, trash. This is woke garbage. The plot is not good. The characters are not good. The visuals are not good. Woke, woke, woke. Marvel wants a woke movie with unlikable people like Brie Larson. That's just a little taste of what some of the user reviews are like on these websites. That is a whole rabbit hole you can go down. And yes, I know that these sorts of unhinged reviews are in the minority. Most of them are not really like that, but there's enough of these unhinged reviews where it creates a bunch of noise pollution. And again, this just comes back down to, is there really a net benefit to being an online movie fan rather than just watching the movie and not paying attention to any of this stuff? Because even if most of it is chill, there is enough noise pollution there to kind of start to ruin the experience a little bit. And then you run into another issue with these websites like Letterboxd and IMDb, which is herd mentality. I think this is especially a problem on Letterboxd, because the way that Letterboxd works is that if you look at the top reviews on pretty much any movie, it's all pretty much made by like the same 15 to 20 people, and I have nothing against those people. It's not their fault, but it's just the fact that Letterboxd doesn't really have any algorithm or way of sorting reviews. So whoever is like the most popular user on the website, they're just going to be the top review for every movie. And yeah, I'm sure most people who go on Letterboxd are not just going to like the same stuff that the power users are liking, but I feel like there has to be some subconscious effect. If you were constantly seeing movies where all of the top reviews are having a certain score, the movie has an overall average score, you're seeing all these other users who have like the same top 4, I feel like that does have some subconscious effect on whether you think a movie is good or not, even if you don't think it does. I like to think that I form my own own opinions on movies. But if I'm being realistic, I feel like I definitely probably am influenced to some degree by the general reception that movies are getting on these websites. And I think you can definitely notice this when so many people kind of have the same general list of favorite movies, usually stuff on like the IMDb top 250 or the Letterboxd top 250. And yeah, those are genuinely great movies. That's how they got onto those lists. But at the same time, if you just ask a random person like that you know in real life who doesn't go on any of these websites, they don't even know what Letterboxd is, people who don't watch movie related content on YouTube, just ask them like their favorite movie. I feel like you get way more interesting and random answers from people like that than you do from the types of people who are super into like Letterboxd and movie YouTube and stuff like that. And I'm not saying I'm any different, dude. I have a super basic taste in movies. I was just wondering though, if I had never gone on Letterboxd, if I had never gone on IMDb, never watched any movie content on YouTube, I wonder what my favorite movie would be. It'd probably be a lot different than what it currently is. And it's hard to say how much of this is a result of herd mentality, or if it's just that these movies are just genuinely that good and people who watch a lot of movies all kind of come to the similar conclusions. I don't really know for sure, and I definitely do think there are a lot of people, even within Letterboxd and all that, who have vastly different opinions. So I'm not saying everyone just has the exact same taste. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, generally speaking, though, there are kind of trends where people start to gravitate to very similar movies. So what even is the point of watching movies? Well, ultimately, I think it's very simple. It's just they're fun to watch, they're entertaining, and it's nice to appreciate the art. It's that simple. I know that's super obvious, but when you factor in all of the online movie discussion, how much is that really contributing to the ultimate point of watching movies, which is just to have fun? And I'm not saying, oh, well, just turn your brain off and enjoy the movie. No, like definitely having discussions about movies and analyzing them, that is a big part of it. And the online movie world is great for that. It enhances the experience in that way, and that it gives you a place to discuss movies where you don't have to annoy people in real life who aren't as nerdy as you. But I don't know, I just see so much of this content revolving around movies. I'm just wondering, do you even like movies? So much of it is so negative, so cynical, always being outraged, always
a key person he is actually talking to that he's talking about, but of course not referencing, is Jezebel. She does exactly that. She has a 31-minute rant about Disclosure Day. It is so terrible. Don't watch this. The cinematography is nuts. I don't know what she said, but that's on my list. That's down here at the bottom of my Disclosure playlist somewhere. And there it is. We're gonna play that next. I feel like we should play that next. I want to see what she says. I want to see what she says. Nah, let's watch the IMDb. Let's be fair. Let's watch IGN's. Let's listen to IGN's first.
Dogpiling on this. It seems like if you're not enjoying movies and you just like to bash movies or be super cynical, like at what point should you just log off and maybe go find another hobby? And please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you shouldn't criticize movies, because if you don't like a movie or you think that movie sucks, then yeah, you should absolutely voice your opinion on that. I'm just talking about where it gets to the point where it's so cynical and so negative all the time. Like at that point, what do you really even get out of it? And I do think that criticizing movies is fun in its own right. It even can be fun to bash a bad movie. That's fun. But like at a certain point, if you just go so overboard with it, that it's just exhausting. So does social media ruin movies? I gotta say it kind of does a little bit, but it also does make it better in a lot of ways. It's kind of a mix of both. And look, I'm not gonna stop watching movie reviews. I'm not gonna stop using Letterboxd. Okay, I'm in too deep at this point, but I'm just saying you should at least take it with a grain of salt. Don't let social media and the whole movie discourse affect your enjoyment of the movies too much. You might think like, oh yeah, I don't let it affect me already, but like you might not even notice it. I feel like some of it is kind of subconscious, and you have to be a little wary of it.
You gotta be aware of what you watch, what you ingest. Just like what you're eating.
Disclosure Day threatens letting the truth loose on the world.
Steven Spielberg is back in theaters, and for the first time in quite a while, he's brought some aliens with him. So, in that sense, Disclosure Day is a welcome return to the things that Spielberg does best. But for all the good questions the movie asks, can the answers be as compelling? I'm Clint Gage, and this is my review of Steven Spielberg's Disclosure Day.
We're interrupting our coverage. There has been a threat to publicly release government material long shrouded in secrecy.
The prospect of a new Steven Spielberg film is always exciting. The prospect
Material long shrouded in secrecy.
The prospect of a new Steven Spielberg film is always exciting. The guy is an all-time great, needs no introduction. That he's back
I think he's trying to be a little bit like Star Trek here with this yellow shirt.
with a big budget original IP science fiction film is even more exciting, and not a thing that can be overlooked in the calculus of reviewing this movie. I will never argue against having more Spielberg, especially when it comes with so many of his most Spielbergian toppings. There's a familiarity to his filmmaking that is honestly maybe unfair at this stage of his career. He's such an influence with a capital M. The backlight is there, the lens flares, the determined push-ins to awe-stricken faces of his characters. It's all there, and it's all extremely Spielberg. Now, Disclosure Day is, in its simplest terms, a film about whether or not humankind can handle learning that aliens exist. Of course, there is a shadowy government-adjacent agency that's been tasked with covering this existence up for decades, and a group of well-intentioned regular folks who take it upon themselves to rule. The meat of this story is the question, can we handle it? And that has always been Spielberg's biggest strength where sci-fi is concerned, taking a big and fantastic premise and rooting it in real, ground-level human emotion. Because, while it's cool that E.T. can make the bikes fly, what really makes us care about him is the connection he's got with Elliot. There's a relatable heart at the center of all of his science fiction that really sets it apart. For Disclosure Day, that heart rests entirely with the cast. Now, first and foremost, Emily Blunt is fantastic. She's truly one of the best actors going, and she always seems to elevate whatever movie she's in, and Disclosure Day is no different.
Good morning, Kansas City. Let's take a look at today.
Equally believable turns. This is part of the Spielberg trick in science fiction. It is truly a wild thing that's happening to this woman. Spielberg trick in science fiction. It is truly a wild thing that's happening to this woman, and keeping her reaction to it grounded while also never mugging in any sort of can you believe this sort of way really truly takes subtlety and attention. And without Blunt's performance to that end, there are huge parts of this movie that just wouldn't work. There's a pretty spectacular oneer, a long take that covers a ton of ground in a pivotal moment in her story, during which she's panicked in one moment, confused in the next, and inexplicably speaking fluent Korean a moment later.
Since when do you speak Korean?
What? Speak Korean? What?
And while the supporting cast is just as good, I mean, it would be weird if Coleman Domingo and Colin Firth weren't good at this point, while Eve Hewson brings an outsider's perspective to the plot, and Wyatt Russell lends his aw shucks everymanness to the proceedings in a way that never really outstays its welcome. The second hand carrying this film is Josh O'Connor. Now, if O'Connor is not spectacularly memorable, he's as solid as they come, and really showing his ability to carry a movie. His Daniel is in over his head, with only his principles to guide him. He just knows that what he's decided to do is the right thing, and that's all the motive he needs, even if he's not equipped for the action. But Daniel has a past he doesn't feel great about, and a hope that his future can be better, which is all you really need for a Spielbergian leading man. It seems like such a simple thing, but it's something that's missing in a lot of would-be tentpole movies. Now, Saying that is putting myself at risk of sounding like an old man on a porch shaking my fist at kids these days. But I am talking about a movie made by an 80-year-old filmmaker, so maybe that's appropriate. Now, I will say, there are stretches of this film where I couldn't help but be awed by the fact that Spielberg has still very much got it. And I can't talk about how good the two leads are in the film without also mentioning a sequence in the center of Disclosure Day that's truly outstanding. So after escaping from the shadowy G-men trailing them, Margaret and Daniel get run into a train, narrowly escaping again. It's about a 10-minute stretch of the movie, but what's incredible about it is that it's action bookended by emotion. There's a scene where Blunt and O'Connor's characters get to connect that's funny and loose and plainly shows where they're both at. Then there's a nerve-wracking bit of action, and then after that, there's an intense scene of the aftermath of the action. It's a moment where being the highlight of the whole movie for me. And yes, the highlight of the movie for me was right smack in the middle, because it certainly wasn't the ending. I have a rule, kind of guiding principle about little things in movies. If there are threads that I can't help but pull on, little logic gaps or plot holes that I can't look past, then it turns out I just don't like the movie. Every movie has those little nagging things, every single one of them. But if they don't bother me, that means I'm charmed enough by the movie overall and I actually like it. So let's say, for example, the big bad's goons close in on our butt, the heroes escape by just kind of climbing out the back window and casually walking away unseen. Now, the quibbling part of me says, no, that's not how it works in movies. I've seen The Fugitive and who knows how many other movies where agents cover the whole building, and there's no way they should get away with that. With Disclosure Day, there are a handful of moments that do exactly that, and I snickered out loud at each one of them as they happened. Like, how bad are these bad guys that they're just super determined to only look that way while Josh O'Connor is noisily scrambling around behind them? And I kind of started thinking, maybe I don't like this movie. Now, the way some of the characters react just didn't feel honest, didn't feel real, or in keeping with how their characters were established. And having started this review pointing out Spielberg's specific proclivity of keeping characters grounded in fantastic situations, losing that asset here in the film's finale really stood out to me. Every character has a clean and clear relationship to the idea of Disclosure Day. Different schools of thought as to how we would accept the truth of aliens are represented in thoughtful ways via these characters, which makes the naivete of the ending a little frustrating. There's an open to interpretation aspect to this ending as well, though, and that can be a bit of a Rorschach test. To a certain extent, you'll get to see what you want to see. A little frustrating. Thoughtful ways via these characters, which makes the naivete of the end to the idea of Disclosure Day. Different schools of thought as to how realistic, and that's where this movie started to stumble. Every character has a clean and clear relationship to the idea of Disclosure Day. Different schools of thought as to how we would accept the truth of aliens. Yes, every character has a clean and clear relationship to the idea of Disclosure Day. Different schools of thought as to how we would accept the truth of aliens are represented in thoughtful ways via these characters, which makes the naivete of the ending a little frustrating. There's an open to interpretation aspect to this ending as well, though, and that can be a bit of a Rorschach test. To a certain extent, you'll get to see what you want to see in the film's conclusion. So, maybe my reaction to it says more about me and how I feel about the current state of our world than it does about the movie itself. And that's the thing I'll be thinking about because of this movie. Maybe I don't agree with. If that's the conversation this movie wants to have, coupled with a dose of Spielbergian positivity and hope, wrapped up in an original IP that's not a spin-off, sequel, or franchise, I'm just not going to complain too much about that. So, I'm giving Disclosure Day a 7. While Steven Spielberg hasn't lost more interesting questions, it's a movie I'm still thinking about long after I left the theater.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if all of this turned out to be true?
So that's what I thought about Disclosure Day. For more movie reviews, you're already here. We do a lot of them. So be sure to be subscribed to IGN wherever you like to watch.
Here is Jezebel.
Hello, everyone. Jezebel, aka Female Frodo Baggins here, and I have just seen one of the worst films of the year, Disclosure Day, directed by Steven Spielberg.
Stop giving this bitch tickets.
A movie that he said he wanted to have Christians questioning their faith in God, or it's a movie he said would have Christians questioning their faith in God. Though, as people come out of the movie, people are saying this movie...
And you know damn well they're not going to question their faith in God. Look, some people in Hollywood just exaggerate, just like these YouTubers. They exaggerate.
It didn't make me question my faith in God, it made me question my faith in Steven Spielberg. Yeah, Disclosure Day is...
Like you even had any to begin with.
Is bad. In fact, it's embarrassingly bad. Like, the trailers do not reveal just how embarrassing this movie.
The trailers don't even reveal anything at all. That's one thing I will say about this movie. The marketing was good. The trailers revealed very little. As all trailers should.
And, I'm seeing some people say that this is Spielberg's worst film, and I think that is definitely true. And, I love Steven Spielberg. I love his classic films, which are referenced in this movie, and that we'll talk about for a second. He's an immense inspiration on me, but...
We don't really need to hear all the Steven Spielberg films that inspired you, or any of them. We just need to hear about this one.
But, the fact of the matter is, people get older and they lose touch. They're not in the same mindset that they were in the past, and they, in a lot of ways, they lose the ability that they once had, and that is
not what happened here. Maybe with the director Megalopolis, but not this one.
Disclosure Day to a T. So once again, Spielberg said that this movie would have Christians questioning their faith. And you have to understand, this is not just your typical boring run-of-the-mill sci-fi expedition, though it is incredibly boring, that we'll talk about. This is Steven Spielberg, trying to be super existential. So much in this movie reminded me that he's 79 now, and he's getting on in years, and I think that he definitely recognizes that he doesn't have a lot of movies to make left, and so he really wants to say something with them. But his attempt at saying something and trying to make it really deep and existential in this movie is what really just becomes laughable about it. And this film, make no mistake, it's like a propaganda movie at the end of the day. So while Disclosure Day might have looked really boring from the trailers, make no mistake, there is just hilarity in this movie, especially at the end. One of the worst endings I've ever seen in recent memory. I just could not believe it, and it just kept going and going and going. So let's get right into it. So
don't ever say get right into it unless you actually can get right into it. You should have did that from second one. At least by the third second you should have done that.
Well, let's talk about the less interesting aspect to Disclosure Day first of all.
You hear it, go back, let's see what you say. Watch this.
To it. So let's talk about
get right back
and going and going. So let's get right into it. So let's talk about the less interesting aspect to Disclosure Day first of all.
She's got a list, by the way. I can see her looking at the paper.
The least interesting aspect of what makes this movie so awful, one of the worst, the worst, I'm just going to say it, it's the worst Spielberg film, is it's incredibly boring. This movie, I don't know how long, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 40 minutes. However, it felt like 2 hours of this movie. Nothing was happening. It was so boring. I wasn't invested in any of the characters. I didn't care what was going on screen. And so that is the big thing you need to understand. So much of the chunks of this movie are just a slog to get through where you don't care about anything. And I was relieved when the movie finally ended so I wouldn't have to sit through it all anymore. But it's like the worst thing that can happen to you in a movie. I would rather a movie be laughably bad than boring, because at least there's something that's engaging me. But throughout the majority of this film, there was just nothing. It was the most boring experience I have had in the theater all year. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time repeating myself on just how boring the film is, because it is what it is, but you do have to understand, if you were to ever see this film, and you absolutely should not, then you're going to be experiencing 2 hours of boredom and then 30 minutes sprinkled in of hilarity, or however it balances out. So let's get into
It's like she even knows.
the more interesting aspects of this film, because I will say a positive. There were times in this film where the classic Steven Spielberg was coming through. Whenever there was an action
I think the pink lipstick is bad. It looks bad on her.
scene in this film, whenever there was like a car chase,
It looks like she's trying too hard.
and there's two of them, so to speak, like it was like he locked in, and it actually became an engaging film, and it was incredibly well shot and exciting, and I was like, oh, I wish I cared about any of these characters in peril, and it would have actually made it a lot better. But yeah, there is like parts of this movie where the real Steven Spielberg starts to peek through, and you see his skill as a director. And, you know, some shots that were just very creative and made an otherwise non-engaging scene engaging, like that was sprinkled in throughout the movie. And once again, I said that I felt like this is the kind of movie that Spielberg would make when he's getting into, you know, his end of days. There's a specific callback to his very first movie he directed in Hollywood, Duel. There's a scene in the movie Duel where the red car, is being pushed into an oncoming train by the serial killer driving a truck. He actually recreates that in the movie, where they're driving in a red car, the bad guys are trying to push them in an oncoming train, and he literally recreates that scene. And I thought that
Except it's not with the truck, but with another car.
was cool. And once again, it also just made me think, is this Spielberg realizing that this is maybe one of his final films, and he wants to do a callback to where it all started with Duel? It made me really feel that way. But that's where the positivities end, where it's like, yeah, he locked in when it came to the action sequences, even though I could not care less about the characters. But once again, as Spielberg is, you know, kind of reaching maybe his final years, maybe he feels like, unfortunately, I feel like this is what he really wants to say about the world, or like this is what he wants to say about the universe. So what makes Disclosure Day such an embarrassment? So here's the plot of the movie. So we have Emily Blunt's character in the movie, and she's a weather lady, and she's super weird. Like, she does this little shimmy dance in the hail that comes out of nowhere and has nothing to do with the plot. But anyway, Emily Blunt's character
That has so much to do with the plot. Look, she's a weather lady. Hail is part of the weather. It's a weather element. Hail. How often do you even get hail? Like the actual hail that falls down, not hail the location.
comes enlightened when a cardinal flies into her apartment, and all of a sudden she starts speaking in tongues, and all of a sudden she has the ability to tell everybody what they need to hear in the moment and appear as another person.
So these aspects of the movie make Emily Blunt's character weird. The character that she plays makes her weird. Yeah, that's the point of the film. That's the point of this part in the film.
Loved one in the moment and tell them once again exactly what they need to hear in their language. And when she does this, instead of them acting like it's strange or it's crazy, they all start to get teary-eyed and act like they have just been touched by God or something. And so Emily Blunt's character starts doing this, and all of a sudden
yeah, because that's the part of the movie. That's what it's supposed to do.
She gets, the download that tells her she needs to go find this other guy. Now, as you can tell, we are mixing in this movie aliens with religion, and that's the entire point, because here's the real thrust of the story. So, protagonist number 2 is this guy who we know barely anything about, And he's stolen all of these files. He's stolen all of these files from a secret organization and is on the run with his girlfriend, who we also, we know nothing about their relationship, but she's a former nun. So he finally, after they've been on the run for a while, reveals what these stolen files actually are. Apparently, the government has known that aliens have existed since the 1940s, and they have had many of them held captive, and they've even tortured them doing various experiments. And protagonist man wants to, now that he's stolen the files, reveal them to the entire world because he believes that this information should not be kept from anyone. That here is where it gets completely laughable. Once again, Spielberg's statement that this would make Christians question their faith. So, the girlfriend, who used to be a nun, has the reveal that the aliens have been real and that they've been tortured. And the aliens themselves, there is no creativity to them whatsoever. They look like Windows XP aliens, like 90s CGI. It is so laughably embarrassing. In fact, all the CGI in this movie is embarrassing. The CGI in Jurassic Park in the 90s look better than this, but like they don't even put any creativity or imagination in what the aliens look like. They just look like the stereotype big-eyed, green-faced aliens. That's all they look like. And immediately, as soon as the girlfriend character sees the torture, she like starts breaking down at the fact that they are experimenting on this green-looking alien thing, and like it's the worst thing she's ever seen, and it is so unbelievable. But yeah.
Not really. I thought it was quite believable because the way it screamed and stuff, you'd break down, you'd cry, sensitive people would. No.
The guy is going to reveal all of this to the public. But then, and this is where it gets nuts, the girlfriend character says what gives him the right to do that? And why doesn't she want him to reveal to the world that aliens have existed this entire time? Because she said that it'll make people lose their faith in God. Why? And then he's...
Because we're supposed to be the dominant species that God made, and when we see another dominant species that's more smarter than us, we question God. That's the point. The Bible specifically says God made man in his image. In his image did he make he them. He made a man and woman. So when you have another species that's not even human, and that's apparently another supreme species, and you start to question that. Where is this mentioned in the Bible? I thought we were the supreme species. That's why Christians refuse to believe in aliens, because the Bible specifically says made in God's image. We're like the best thing he made. That's what it says. That's what it tries. We're not the best thing, but you know my point. He made us in his image. So when there's something else that's apparently just as intelligent or smarter that doesn't look like us, where is that? That's the whole question of the faith aspect of it. That's what she means, and that's why she asked the nun, her nun leader, and her nun leader later says, on oath, supreme being on oath, there's another planet where there's another supreme being that is not here. She's missing. She knows what she's doing. If she watched the movie,
says to her, as a former nun, like, you lost your faith, didn't you? And she says, kinda, yeah, but she still believes that God is essential and that people believing in a God is essential or something like that. And I'm like, why? How did we get from aliens exist to people, religious people, or specifically Christians and Catholics in this movie? Christians and Catholics are going to stop believing in God because they discovered aliens exist. I don't know how we jumped from that to that, but that is what Spielberg did. And that is like the entire point of this movie. It is intertwined with extraterrestrial life and God is what he's trying to do, but he's not doing a good job of it, because that is the crazy thing about this movie, is that it wants to treat this alien life as God. and it's so confusing. Like the idea that the former nun says is that once people find that there is a life form that has greater abilities than them, then they will stop believing in their religion and their God. That doesn't make any kind of sense. First of all, Spielberg did not create a very convincing, powerful alien. 1 second in this movie, the aliens can do literally anything, and the next second it's like, but they're literally captured by humans and have been experimented on and tortured for decades. You can't have it both ways. That 1 second, these non-humans, as they call them, are these poor creatures who have been kidnapped and enslaved and experimented on for decades, and the second minute they're literally gods. Like, you can't have it both ways. But once again, with like no prompting, like the movie just wants you to accept the idea that these aliens are akin.
It's just saying, I mean, even Thor was kind of tortured. It's just saying that that's our... It's different ways to interpret, and people in different collections would... Some people would worship them and some people wouldn't. Some people would torture them. And people have different reactions. That's what the movie's saying.
Into God.
That's why the information cannot be disclosed just on Facebook alone or just on social media alone. It has to be presented to the news, because the news would know how to channel it professionally to where they would calmly present it to you.
Because they have greater abilities than us, supposedly. And it's like, we don't think like that. We don't think that, if there were to be aliens with greater abilities than us, then there goes our religion or something like that. But that's just what Steven Spielberg has put forth out there. And once again, it's a complete leap. There is no connection between them. It's what the movie just blatantly tells you. But once again, the movie is trying to conflate these 1950s big-eyed, green-skinned Windows XP CGI aliens with God, and that everyone is just enlightened by these characters. Later in the film, there's even a character who says that these aliens produce empathy, and that is what human beings lack. All we need is empathy, and that is how we get, to the great...
No, they understand... They've come to learn that empathy is at the top of evolution, something like that, and that we do the opposite, so we are de-evolving. Empathy is important, because it is. It's like, because what he's saying is, if that's our way to connect to God, is through empathy. That's actually how God forgives, Jesus forgives, is through empathy. Not sympathy, but empathy. Because Jesus was us at one point. He didn't sin, but he understands us. He's been in our situation. Empathy.
Later understanding of everything. It is total propaganda. It's total propaganda, in the ways that oftentimes empathy is used to manipulate people and to just be accepting and open to everything. That is what this film is. And once again, it's this super weird thing where it's conflated religion with aliens for just no reason.
She's saying it's woke. Now, here's the problem with anti-woke. They've become on these far right, strict, no bullshit, not feeling sorry for you at all type people who don't understand. While the woke side on the far right or on the far left or too sensitive to certain people.
And whatsoever, and you've got Emily Blunt's character speaking in tongues and giving everyone she meets an epiphany.
She literally does speak in tongues one time.
By appearing to them as their loved ones, like she's supposedly Jesus or something like that. And there's just no connection here. And once again, if the aliens are just so powerful, then how are they simultaneously kidnapped and enslaved by humans and getting?
It doesn't mean they're powerful. See, she's not going in depth about it at all. She's not even thinking about what she's saying. They're not that powerful. They could still be harmed. They could still crash land. A lot of the footage in the end of it was them crash landing and being discovered. They're only really discovered if they crash land. And with all the footage, we're not even sure that this is the same exact alien. It could be different sets of aliens. And the fact is that they're so vulnerable, they're not as powerful. They have certain abilities. But that doesn't mean they're too much powerful. They're very vulnerable, like we are.
Further into that, Emily Blunt's performance as this sort of anointed being all of a sudden is so over the top. I'm going to choose to believe it's not Emily Blunt because she's a very experienced actress. I think it's just what she's been asked to do. But she is so over the top throughout all this movie as she's portraying like this pseudo-prophet for the aliens. It's just laughable throughout the entire thing. But going forward, and once again, this is just chunks you get of story in the midst of something that barely has any. But you know, the entire movie, the problem is it's written by someone who is almost in their 80s right now, and they are very, very out of touch. So you might be asking, okay, he's got the information about the aliens, you know, the second.
You see how she's being disrespectful, her review. She's not only misreading the entire movie, but you're going and saying somebody's out of touch. You're drawing these conclusions, these assumptions, and you're being worse than Gen Z right now. Gen Z used to pull this shit. Now it's people her age. I think she might be Gen Z. I don't know. She's just very disrespectful in saying, "Oh, he's out of touch and shouldn't like movies anymore because this movie." Just because you don't understand the movie doesn't mean he should stop watching movies anymore. Like, and of course you can't make that happen. You're not going to make it happen. He's still going to like movies and direct movies. But just you saying that kind of shit, you're out of touch. Would you talk to your teachers this way? You can't teach, you're out of touch. I probably would, but would you? You don't know what you're talking about. You're out of line. The subject doesn't make any sense. What are you doing? You know, what made you the expert? You get up and fucking make a better movie. Make a better movie.
And the second main protagonist does. Why doesn't he just upload them to the internet so people can see all of this stuff? Well, apparently the internet is not acknowledged at all in this movie. The acknowledgement is not that you can do that. No. Instead, protagonist guy needs to meet up with protagonist woman, Emily Blunt.
I know where this is going. The reason why you cannot upload it to the internet is because, and you're not really uploading anything to the internet. It's called the web, sweetheart. You can't just upload anything to the web that is completely raw footage and unfiltered. The reason why, people lose their minds. At the core of this, the reason why it's called Disclosure Day, at the core of this is we cannot trust how people will react to such information even being disclosed. If such data is put on the internet, because the character Daniel, he does want to put it on the internet, but then what's his name? I think is played by Coleman Domingo. Was my IMDb page. But then Hugo, he says, no, if you do that, it's all over, because you've got to be careful what you disclose on the internet. If this thing is so big that, first of all, some people will think it's AI, they'll think it's fake, they won't believe it. While other people will think they'll just share the post and post it wherever. It'll be too huge for people to contain, and it'll blow up, it'll explode. It would be chaos. But if you put it on the news in the right way, he uploads the data first, and they filter that out. This guy's snapping his fingers, deciding when the scene needs to be changed for a reason. He wants people to see it in a controlled manner. Okay, roll that. Now switch to that. We'll see. He's doing it because he wants certain shots to be shown after a certain amount of time, because that's how the news controls footage. They don't just let shit randomly happen. They have a certain systematic way to do things, because it has to be controlled so that people can ingest it the way it's meant to be. When it's meant to be ingested. The way you show it is how it's going to be ingested. If you show it chaotically, have it spread it everywhere, that's how it's going to be ingested. But if I show it in a controlled manner with people that are professional, that already give the news professionally, be like, okay, we just received news that there's breaking footage of, and these news anchors, they don't understand this shit either. But the way they react while they're on camera are professional and self-controlled. That reassures us that it's okay, that we don't need to panic. You don't see them running out of their seats. Oh my God, what is that? You don't see them doing that. They don't do that when it comes to this footage. They don't freak out and lose their shit. They don't even cuss. They're just like, okay, obviously this is very disturbing. I'm sorry you have to watch this with me. You can see the empathy in the female anchor's eyes, but you see her maintaining professionality. It's not just to make herself look good. It's to make you as the viewer feel calm while you're ingesting this visual and audio information. That's why they don't want to just send the shit to the internet, because then there'll just be utter chaos. People won't know how to ingest this information, because we see it on social media all the time. People don't know how to ingest it. Twitter is not a good place to put the news. The Twitter actually tries to make the news look bad. When you put something on the news, and I know the news is not perfect, but it's like a professional way. It's the same thing with the newspaper. Of course the news maybe promotes things negative, but the point I'm making is when it comes to something like this, when it's not even politics, it's not politics. They have a better way to present it. It's the best way to present information locally into the world.
Because she is a local news weather anchor. And the only way, apparently, they think that they can get this information out to the public is by playing it on the local news and get that picked up by the networks. Spielberg. I'm sorry. I love Jurassic Park. I love Duel. I love all that you have contributed to filmmaking. You will always be a legend, and you will always be remembered for your best work. But I gotta tell you, nobody watches broadcast news anymore. It is totally irrelevant. And
not really. We saw people watching on their phones. They don't watch news on TV as much as they do their phones, but people are still looking at their phones. They have little snippets on the phone. People do.
And we'll get to the really embarrassing part about all of this. But yeah, the entire thing is built off of they need to broadcast this on the 11 p.m. news or whatever in order for everyone to see it. Even though it'd be a lot quicker, you could do it in an instant if you just uploaded it to social media. But they don't acknowledge that exists at...
They actually do, but you see how you see what she did? You see, she's not in sync. She doesn't understand what she said. Or just very... Why? No. They have to present that in a kind of like police officers or firemen or a nurse, a doctor. When they tell you so and so has had a heart attack, or monitoring their condition. Notice they say it in a calm manner, because if they, oh, he's dying, if they do it like this, you're gonna freak out. Because you already got the freaking, right? You're already on your nose, your nerves are already shocked or whatever. I don't need to freak you out even more. I need to kind of present information to you in a calm manner. Now, we're watching his progress, or monitoring it, but just be prepared for the worst. I'm reassuring you, but also warning you in a way that's supposed to be calming. Because, like I said, is to have a
that exists during this film so that they can have their plot. And so that's what's so ridiculous about this. It's like if you made a movie where the plot was they had to get a story published in the local newspaper. It's like newspapers exist, but no one reads them anymore, and it's set in the modern day. So, like, you know, only a baby boomer would think that, like, this is a big thing, like the nightly news and broadcast news is the big thing that everyone watches, which is how he treats it in this film. Long story short, it's really, really boring. It's just hours after hours of just nothingness and Emily Blunt's character convulsing and speaking in tongues and, you know, staring at the screen and gasping and people becoming enlightened. And that's the weird thing that this movie does. It thinks that it's so deep and profound. I don't know where it jumped to the conclusion that these, emoji-looking aliens would be considered gods by anyone. Or it just tells you that, and then it becomes a fact. It leaps from aliens exist to their gods. But it can't even keep its themes consistent there. Because at one point in the film, the former nun calls a nun and asks her, you know, if she believes that everyone will lose their faith because aliens exist. And the nun says that, according to the way she sees everything, that there's nothing about aliens existing that goes against God's word. And so at the one point, the movie is arguing that no, aliens existing does not go against people's religion that they have on Earth. But then it keeps insisting that no, this is the true godlike beings, these aliens. This is the true enlightenment of things that are greater than ourselves. And this is going to change everything. So it simultaneously does both things. On the one hand, it's arguing, no, this doesn't change anything. On the other hand, it wants you to believe like these aliens are essentially the real God or something like that. Even like later, they do a recreation of Emily Blunt's house to find out the exact moment she and the other protagonists were anointed by these aliens to be their messengers so that they could team up to put...
I've had enough. Sorry, I've had enough.
Hey everybody, today I'm going to be reviewing Disclosure Day. This was directed by Steven Spielberg. This is Spielberg's foray back into the science fiction genre, a genre that he has dabbled in quite a bit in the past, obviously, but it's been a while. I want to say the last sci-fi film he made was War of the Worlds back in like 2005, or no, actually it was Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the Indiana Jones movie, but I try and pretend otherwise. But I was kind of intrigued by this one because it felt like a return to that familiar summer blockbuster territory that Spielberg used to be known for, and it is also an original story by Spielberg as well. But I also think it's important to understand what kind of movie this is going into it, because it's meant to be more an exercise in emotion, I think, and less in intellect. I think it wants to find the balance between the wonderment, the fantasy elements, but mixed with that old school like 1970s type of paranoid thriller vibe. I think if you're willing to roll with the simplicity of it and kind of turn your brain off, allow the movie to take you on a ride in that old kind of Hollywood escapist tradition, then I think you will enjoy this movie on a basic level, because I certainly did. It's Spielberg and John Williams together, and regardless of whatever you're watching, whatever the plot is, that is familiar binding, and that is glue that is just comfortable and warm to us as an audience. There is a mastery and a flow to a lot of the camera work here, despite the sloppiness of the script, and you can just feel constantly that there is a master at the helm of this thing, somebody who is a veteran. That allows me to forgive maybe other aspects of the film. There are sections of this movie that I think are so present, they're beautifully choreographed, and I'm fully engaged as I'm watching it. And like I said, the camera work and the editing here, there's a beauty to it. There's a lot of swish pans, a lot of long singular camera shots. There are a few shots in here where I thought, wow, that's a great shot. I would love to know how they did that. A huge chunk of this movie is actually dedicated to the Josh O'Connor character being chased on foot, and the way they elevate all of that with like these major action set pieces is very Hollywood, but it's kind of fun. I dig it. The train sequence, as an example, is really great. Do I feel it necessarily works within the context of the plot? Maybe not so much, but it is fun. It's very Indiana Jones. When you have a director like this, there is an expectation that there's going to be a great star power to accompany everything, and I think you certainly have that here. You have top-notch performers, and I would say the highlight of the movie for me was Emily Blunt. I think she's quite brilliant in this movie, and I think this is one of her better performances that I've seen in a while. There were so many times watching this movie, just the way she's framed and the look that she gives the camera, I just thought to myself, wow, she really is a movie star. She has such a natural charm to her, and the way she not only carries the emotional currents of the film, but the way she's able to guide them throughout really masterfully is effortless. I also really like Colin Firth in this movie. I always thought he should play more villains in his career. He kind of reminds me of Anton Walbrook, particularly in the movie The Red Shoes. There's something to his personality. It's like there's a modesty perhaps, and a proper elegance and decorum, but it's masking a darkness, a shame, and an anger. So yeah, if you're walking into this thing and you know that yes, this is Spielberg, but it is more softcore Spielberg that we've grown accustomed to later in his career, you might dig this. And honestly, this movie reminded me less of movies like E.T. or even something like Minority Report or AI. It reminded me more of Contact by Robert Zemeckis. That's another movie that asks many similar questions of trying to merge the idea of science and religion. How do they work together or not work together? Of course, it's done in a very simplified Hollywood sort of way. You have to turn your brain off for that one as well, but I love that movie. So far as the things that I disliked about Disclosure Day, I mean, overall, it's pretty simple. I think that the science fiction provocative concepts that they're probing, mixed with the emotion and the escapism, is just not working in tandem with the script, the plotting. We have a lot of interesting ideas, like I said, that are lightly touched on in the first half of the movie, but they're often forced into these exposition scenes in the second half of the movie. And the story as it's presented, just to me, doesn't feel like the proper vehicle to explore those ideas. So in the end, it feels like there's a lot of threads dangling, and I just emotionally don't feel that satisfied. At times, this felt like we have some big, fancy, expensive car motor, but we're using it to power like a station wagon or some shit. There's just something felt off about it. As an example, the majority of this film, at least in the midsection of it, is a cat and mouse chase. So the tension of it is devoted to will they or will they not get caught. And I think we know the answer to that ultimately. So, like I said, those chase scenes that are involved there, they are rousing, they're beautifully done. Everything is there to hit those cinematic beats so that they fit into the blockbuster formula. But it's just, again, why does the emphasis have to be on that when there are a lot of other moving pieces and character dynamics that deserve our attention? There are so many plot holes and so many things that we dance around. And I can forgive that to an extent, but it just feels like all of the interesting conversations that we touch on that I wanted to get more out of, it just felt like they shoved them into the movie because they had to. I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but there is a big part of the third act that involves the rest of humanity and the way that we cope with trying to understand our own identities and how we react to certain information about extraterrestrial life. And the way it's done here just feels out of touch. It feels like we don't quite understand the year 2026 and how complicated it is compared to maybe 1976. And obviously,
this is the reason we have so much division in our country, because some people are lying, dirty dogs.
If evidence does come out that Carmelo was not in fact fighting for his life when he stabbed and killed Austin Metcalf, do you think that the black community will accept that?
No, we're going to stand by ours regardless. They stand by theirs.
He was not an aggressor. Carmelo was not an aggressor.
Anthony's
I gotta watch this stuff later on.
Spielberg is quite elite himself, so it felt like a simplified idea of what he thinks the world might react to in a similar situation. And I don't know, it doesn't touch the same nerve that something like Close Encounters does for me. The lens flares in this movie, god damn, I thought I was gonna go blind at a certain point. They needed to.
I mean, it's not supposed to be like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, because it's not about necessarily encountering the alien so much as it is seeing footage of the alien. They know that. Look, it's not like they're on a hunt to find the aliens. They're on a hunt to find out how to disclose this information when the aliens have already been encountered. The third kind they've already encountered. They just need to disclose the information in a controlled way.
Dial that back just a little bit. And also the CGI, I don't know, it felt uninspired so far as trying to create that fantasy element. So yes, there's a lot of plot holes, a lot of spotty things here and there, but I'm still going to recommend this because, like I said, it feels like a proper summer movie. It's a fairly long movie, I think, but it didn't feel long to me. And yeah, the pieces are always moving, even if they're not fully in harmony with each other. But yeah, that is my review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to plug my website as always. It is deepfocuslens.com. I'm an artist. I do commissioned portraits, and I also sell prints of my work. If that is something that you're interested in, you can always go to the website below, and if you have a question about a commission or a print, you can always email me. My email is in the description box below as well. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons who are great. Guys, thank you so much for your support, and welcome to all the new members. If you are interested in supporting, the link for that is below, as well as the rest of my social media information. You can watch my videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like.
No, thank you. I think I'm already just subscribed, but that's all you're gonna get. I know these people are gonna say they didn't like the movie, and I'm really honestly tired. So yeah, I'm just gonna get out of here. We might continue this later. Okay, we may. Maybe I'll continue tomorrow.